Hello and welcome to ET Now. The Geneva Motor Show is on and Tata Motors has had a blockbuster show there. 4 new products, 1 premium hatchback, 1 electric vehicle and 2 SUVs. Now I am joined by Guenter Butschek, the MD of Tata Motors, live from the Geneva Motor Show. First of all, Guenter, congratulations on the blockbuster show, as I said. Can you tell us about the product plan? How much of them are really concept vehicles and how much of them can we really see in production and the timeline?
Most frequently asked question ever since yesterday morning. And I would just like to rewind, if you don't mind, to the press conference yesterday morning, which actually got a headline, Promise Delivered. Why Promises Delivered? A year ago, we actually brought 2 show cars representing the Alpha and Omega architecture, the future of the passenger vehicle business of Tata Motors to Geneva. And the one show car was H5X and the other one was called 45X. And at this point of time, the same question was asked, is it just a concept car or is it going to be road ready? And we said it's going to be on the roads within the coming 12 to 18 months. That was the very straightforward commitment and promise made. Yesterday we unveiled 4 vehicles and we brought the Harrier back to Geneva, because the Harrier was already delivered to the Indian customers at the end of January. So promise kept, and the other ones are going to be with the customers soon. If you don't mind, I take one by one. Ultras, the 45X as it was called last year, is going to be with the customers as of mid of 2019. The electric twin of it, which has its very differentiated exterior design and even more so interior design, as a carryover from last year's e-Vision sedan, flat floor, free floating cockpit, is going to be in the market after successful transition to BS6, roughly mid of 2020. And then we get to the 7-seater brother or sister of the Harrier, which we call here in Geneva the Buzzard Geneva edition, which is, wait a second, which is not finally Christian for the Indian market, is also going to be formally on sale during the course of the fiscal year 20. Now we come to the showstopper of yesterday's press conference, and obviously a showstopper for lots of visitors here in Geneva, the concept car called H2X. This is built on the Alpha architecture, and what we have on stage, although it's called concept, same promise like last year, within 18 months it's going to be on the Indian roads, it's going to be with the customers, so that means launch date in autumn 2020. So even this one is not just another show car, this is almost a road-worthy version of it. Although we have actually exaggerated the design a little bit, proportionally is what the customers can expect in 2020.
Well, how many new products from both the new platforms? We have been given to understand that these will be only 2 new platforms which Tata Motors will be working with in the next 2 years.
So if I stick to the time frame we have mentioned, 2 to 5 years, which is an appropriate time frame, because very often our statements got translated into the next 2 to 3 years. That has never been mentioned. That is also not the intention, because we have running products as it is Tiago, Tigor, Nexon, for example, which have still half of the life cycle to go. But on the 2 new architectures, you can expect somewhat in the vicinity of 10 to 14 different top hats during the coming 5 years, which is going to take us from an addressable market of currently 70% to 90%, while at the same point of time, due to the commonality and modularity, we are going to create economies of scale by increasing the volumes produced on the same platform shared or architecture shared, and which is going to give us a complete different cost point, and is going to give us the opportunity to really get not only for volume, with the volume also into additional market share, because with 90% addressable share, we are going to get in many more sub-segments of the Indian markets, which is an important play to really keep up with the competitive environment, and even more so amongst the 10 to 15 top hats or derivatives, you will even find some white space products, which is going to give us a complete new play back to the roots of Tata Motors, where we actually invented lots of segments, and this is what we would like to do in the future again.
Well, Guenter, we had heard that there's a new showroom near Kalyan which has been opened by Tata Motors, and that's a pilot project. Now, is this the new design language for Tata Motors going ahead? And also, speaking about the cost reduction drive you had started when you joined, is that over or there's more to come?
It's always impressive to talk to media to see how much information actually travels outside Tata Motors. But I can confirm that what we launched with the new tagline, Connecting Aspirations, has always also been translated into a new layout, into a new sales experience at our dealerships, because with the volume growth aspirations, as we have just discussed, we also need to expand the network. But we also would like to take at the same point of time the sales experience to a different level. And that's one of the reasons why all the new showrooms we are going to open will already be based on the new design and layout. And you called it, it will be more technology driven. Technology is one of the elements. It's much more about the experience. It's much more about the way we actually present the vehicles, because it's no longer about a static display of the products just in a showroom. It's much more about creating an experience, bringing an experience center and actually putting the vehicles in the context of the social life of our customers. And this is absolutely independent if just somebody would like to pay us a visit and would like to spend some time with Tata Motors, leveraging and taking advantage of the social space provided, or if somebody really comes and says, this is the product I would like to buy, give me the chance of a test drive, and let's actually go for the formalities. So the new showroom is something much bigger, much larger than just a redesign. At the same point of time, and we have given a hint last year in Geneva, the expansion of the network is not necessarily going to come all in steel and concrete. By building additional 1S, 2S, 3S dealerships, the expansion of the network will also be partly virtual and digital. Because we believe that in particular the young generation of the Indian customers is tech savvy, is native digital, and we believe that we have a concept in place where we don't have to bring the customers to the showroom, where we actually bring an immersive experience to the customers, to the place where the customers are, not asking the customers to come to the place where we have our vehicles on display.
Well, Guenter, back home, how do you read the current market condition? Now, the market has been in a bad shape since the last 6 months. What's exactly wrong, and by when do you think the situation will get better?
It's a good question. If we rewind, the same question was asked after the second quarter. We were still outpacing the competition, the market. And I said we are cautiously optimistic because we all expected that we are well set for a very strong festive season, expecting a recovery in retail. There was no festive season. There was a subdued third quarter. Same question was asked after the third quarter, and I said let's stay cautiously optimistic, because normally the fourth quarter is going to be strong, if not necessarily as of Jan, but it should pick up as of the month of February. We have just published the figures for Tata Motors for the entire industry, and you have seen that the second month of the fourth quarter, namely February, has not brought this expected recovery. So we still hope, since there's very little reason why the demand should be as subdued as we have seen it in the last 8 months in the meanwhile, that the month of March can bring some recovery to conclude the quarter and finally the fiscal year on a somewhat higher note, which is going to give us a much more optimistic attitude in the transition into the next fiscal year, which is going to be for the entire industry possibly the most demanding year because of the transition from BS4 to BS6, where we will need to make at certain point of times educated calls which of the scenarios which we have developed is going to be called out for which kind of product, differentiated calls to be made in PV, but also differentiated calls to be made in CV. So the next year we are positive as far as the volume expectations are concerned.
Well, speaking of the BS6 implementation, Guenter, it's not only about technology, but now timing the market right. When do we really get the BS6 vehicle into the market? When should we extract the BS4 vehicles out of the market? What is the timing which Tata Motors has? By when can we see the BS6 vehicles really getting into the market?
That's pretty much what I just said. It's not going to be one date which is going to suit the transition for all of the products. This is going to be an educated decision product by product, because some products are largely petrol based. Transition to petrol is an easier step for BS6 than it is the case for diesel. Then it's a question which of the powertrain applications have a need for BS6 compliant fuel, not just being available on some spots, to be available across Pan-India. There we need to see how this is going to further develop, because just taking a decision on the basis of a promise where you don't know to what extent the promises are going to be kept can be an extremely risky play. It's also going to be influenced by the transition scenarios applied by the competition. And finally, it's going to be influenced by customer behavior. So to what extent are customers willing to switch earlier to BS6 for the benefit of improved emissions? But on the other side, on the downside of somewhat higher costs related to the significantly increase in technology and devices to be applied on the BS6 ready products. So therefore, there's not one date. There will be a sequence of dates, a sequence of events on which basis we are going to manage the transition to BS6, most probably beginning as of the second half of the next fiscal year.
Well, thanks a lot, Guenter, for joining us. So this was Guenter Butschek joining us live from the Geneva Motor Show. Now, interesting times ahead for Motown. A new players like Kia, SAIC, MG entering the market, and the domestic players also stepping up the ante. Now, thank you for watching. We'll slip into a short break. More news and updates on the other side.